This is CBC Here and Now.
Welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain. We start tonight with a political controversy that is rocking the federal election campaign. Another damning image has emerged of Justin Trudeau, this time in blackface, and we don't know much about this video, but the Liberal Party confirms it is Trudeau. The video was obtained by Global News and provided exclusively to them. A spokesperson for the Liberal Party says it was recorded in the early 1990s when Trudeau would have been in his late teens, possibly early 20s. And as you can see, the Liberal leader is in blackface. His arms and legs, they are darkened as well, and he appears to be wearing a wig. Well, the whole country is talking about these images, but the reaction isn't all black and white. In fact, here in St. John's, many people of color say the controversy is being overblown. CBC's Zach Gowdy has more on that.
Okay, so first of all, my question is, why did he apologize?
Musharat Labiba is from Bangladesh, one of 9 people of color I spoke to on the MUN campus. When she saw the images of Justin Trudeau in brown face makeup, she defended him.
I don't see that he is mocking or projecting racism towards black people or brown people or colored people. Second, I think Justin Trudeau is being humble and trying to not be rude as much as possible as the election coming. But I don't think so. He did need to apologize for anything for this costume.
Kazi Sazadizaman and Fahid Moin felt the same way.
It doesn't really make me feel anything. This is just a costume party. This has nothing to do with the election or something.
I mean, if anyone is provoked, I don't know why, but it's fine.
It's fine, yeah.
Do you see this as racially insensitive?
No.
No.
Many people have been provoked and more. Hurt, offended, insulted. Trudeau himself says he's embarrassed by his actions. And some people of color agreed it was a dumb thing to do.
It's kind of strange, and the fact that he was in high school when he did that, and he was like a teacher too, which is really not appropriate for a teacher to do.
If everyone at the party was all in agreement of doing this, maybe, but in general, not a big fan of it.
But others see Trudeau as a champion of multiculturalism and say the images don't erase that.
People here in Canada are they are not, first of all, they are not racist. They are kind and they are helpful. In that point of view, I think Trudeau is moving ahead. I think he should be re-elected. That is the main agenda.
Well, obviously it's unacceptable.
The people I met who seemed most upset by the images were white.
I mean, I really don't want Andrew Scheer to be in office, to be honest, but you can't, it's not something that you can excuse.
I don't know. It doesn't really seem like something that I definitely would never do.
Just like every white person does not think the same way, every brown person and black person don't think the same way either.
Frequent CBC NL commentator Prajwala Dikshit says we can't assume how people will feel based on race. But she says the Trudeau controversy is a reminder that our actions can be racist even when we don't intend them to be.
The racist tendencies that we see today aren't explicit, so it's inherently present and unspoken, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, no doubt it's been a difficult week for the Liberals. First, here at home, where controversial comments with racial undertones about the Innu prompted Cabinet Minister Perry Trimper to resign. And now the head of the federal Liberal Party is apologizing for dressing up in black and brown face. Well, how is this all going to play out in this province? Carolyn Stokes is standing by at the NDP headquarters in St. John's East, a hotly contested riding. Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Yes, I'm here at the campaign headquarters of NDP federal candidate Jack Harris, who's vying to win his seat back from Liberal incumbent Nick Whalen. He joins me now. So this is a very busy time for you. This is a busy time for volunteers. I can see lots of people mulling about here today. This is probably the most competitive riding in this provincial election. How has all of this changed the energy of your campaign in the past 24 hours since these photos were released?
Oh, well, I don't think it's really about my campaign. I mean, this is really about, as our leader has pointed out, you know, how people are impacted by this. The people who have been themselves are now reminded of, in the past or even present, encounters with racism that they've had in their own lives, whether they've been, you know, mocked for being who they are, whether they've been subject to subject to any kind of discrimination or ill treatment or jeering at them or violence. They're painfully reminded that this is a reality for them, and to have that come that reminder come from the actions of someone as prominent as the Prime Minister.
What
is
are you
shocking?
What are you hearing from voters today when you're out and about?
Well, I think there is a lot of discouragement and disappointment, and I think it's the response is that people are very regretful of that we are dealing with this in our country today. That's I think that's the big thing, that people are very disappointed and discouraged, and I think more so the people who are hurt by this, who are reminded of their own hurtful past and present, and being victims of discrimination.
Your leader, Jagmeet Singh, is the first turban-wearing federal leader. Justin Trudeau was in the photos wearing a turban in brown face. This has really put Jagmeet Singh front and center since all of this happened last night, at a time when some people were saying his presence wasn't very strong in this election campaign. What does all of this mean for the NDP campaign overall, do you think?
Oh, I don't think we're going to be going there yet. I think what I'm responding to is the very important and sensitive response that Jagmeet Singh has made to this. I think anyone who's seen his response, I just saw a video on Twitter where he's talking about this in a very sensitive way, and I think that's the real response here. He's been able to understand from his own life and his own experience what this means and how important it is, and I think he's showing leadership here on the way forward as what we have to do as a country, and I think that's a very good thing, and we were very lucky to have him as a leader to be able to deal with this at this time.
It's been a very difficult 24 hours for the federal Liberals, but it's also been a very difficult week for the provincial Liberals with the fallout of the comments that Perry Trimper made on that voicemail, him resigning from cabinet. What do you think all of this is doing to the Liberal image, the Liberal brand?
Well, I don't really want to be political about it at this point, but I think it does show that we do have an issue in this province and in this country with this underlying sense of people not being treated fairly. We have a long way to go in this province and nationally on the whole notion of reconciliation with Indigenous people. We have a very big challenges to overcome as a result of that, and as a result of the recent incidents where the Nunavut government has said that they don't believe that the government, when they say that they don't know how this happened about not capping the wetlands in Labrador, they think it was done on purpose. That's a significant challenge when a government like Nunavut is able to say it, or feels that they need to say that about the government of Newfoundland. So I think it reminds us that we have a long way to go, both provincially and federally, on issues having to do with racism, having to do with Indigenous people, and we've got to renew our efforts and resolve, and a lot of work has to be done on that score. And I think this is regrettable that we're in this situation, but I think it may end up being an exercise that leads us to a better place.
Okay, Mr. Harris, thank you so much for speaking with me. So I'm going to head out now over to Nick Whalen's campaign headquarters to find out how he's feeling about all of this. We did reach out to the Conservative candidate, Jody Wall, and he's not going to be commenting on this today, saying that he's leaving the comments to Andrew Scheer, the party leader, and that those comments speak for themselves. So I'll be checking back in with you in just a little bit. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Carolyn Stokes.
What a difference out there today. Certainly feeling more summer-like, at least for this last week of summer. Temperatures reached a high of 14 degrees in St. John's. We're seeing a number of areas in Labrador in the 20-degree mark. 22 was the warmth in Nain this afternoon. Now we do have some frost warnings still in place for parts of the island. A wind warning in place as well. We do have a couple of systems in play. We can start to see some cloud cover move out. If I zoom in, that's all thanks to Hurricane Humberto. That's going to track a little bit further south, but we are still going to see something from it. I'll have all the details coming up.
I'm Troy Turner here at the Stephenville Airport. Coming up, we've got the story about how the town of Stephenville is dealing with the news that Provincial Airlines will be ending its service to the area. That's coming up in Here and Now.
Well, now to Conception Bay South, where a family doctor is talking openly about the stresses and challenges of her job. Problems that she says are contributing to the family doctor shortage in our province. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
Nicole Stockley knew she wanted to be a family doctor long before medical school. And now that she's been practicing for a few years, she's certain she made the right decision.
What made me passionate about family medicine is the patient interaction, the patient care, the community care, and that's what I really love about my job.
But she's also seen frustrated colleagues leave family practice. Some have been ground down by mountains of paperwork. In her case, it eats up about a quarter of her work week.
The burden that I hadn't really expected, and I find it frustrating at times because I always think, you know, I could be seeing more patients right now. I could be decreasing my wait time.
And then there are the challenges of an aging patient population with multiple, complex health problems. She says family physicians are burning out.
You know, we're rowing the boat and we're trying to keep it afloat, but we know that the boat is sinking, and it's been sinking for a long time. And despite our pleas and our cries for help, we continue to try to bail that boat out while we're rowing, and that is a really tough job to try to do.
And she says that's at least part of the reason why tens of thousands of people in this province don't have this, a family doctor.
I've seen family physicians leave clinical practice in the community, and I've seen people decide not to go into family medicine.
Stockley says there's no quick solution. She says group practices that involve other healthcare practitioners may work, but she says real changes must start happening now.
We're getting to a breaking point where, you know, as much as family physicians have been putting their heads down and trying to provide as much care as they can for their patients, we are standing up and saying we can't possibly do this anymore in the system that exists, and there needs to be change, and we need to be part of that change.
Mark Quinn, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
And now to Supreme Court in St. John's. A man who is facing numerous charges has pleaded guilty to offering money to a police officer. Dustin Etheridge appeared by video from Corner Brook this morning. He pleaded guilty to attempting to bribe an officer and a breach of probation related to an incident from 2017. Other charges are expected to be dropped. Meanwhile, Etheridge is embroiled in separate legal troubles. Last year, he was charged with conspiring to murder Bradley Summers, as well as charges of cocaine trafficking. The bribery case is due back in court next month. There's a warning tonight from an opera company in St. John's. Opera on the Avalon is putting Phantom of the Opera on stage in the city in November, but the company says online resale sites are selling tickets to the performance at higher prices. The company stresses that it does not use secondary sellers, and it encourages people to buy their tickets directly from the Arts and Culture Centre. Cheryl Hickman is the artistic director, and she says they're excited because it's the first time that Phantom has been east of Toronto, but Hickman says it's upsetting that someone would try to charge exorbitant prices in US dollars for tickets.
What these sites are actually doing is they're putting that these tickets are available for, $250 US. Then what they do, if you purchase through them, they then come to the Arts and Culture Centre site. They buy those tickets because you can't get, they'll say like row F. So they will then go and buy whatever tickets, if there's any available in row F, and then resell you the tickets that they bought for us for 100 Canadian and sell them back to you for 250 American.
Well, to the West Coast now. As we reported last night, the only airline flying year-round into Stephenville is ending its service to that town. Provincial Airlines says it's just losing too much money with the flights, And as the CBC's Troy Turner reports, the news is tough for a town that's been working really hard to try to keep its airport open.
There's little activity at Stephenville's airport today, and it's about to get even quieter. The airport's runways are empty, and the only movement inside revolves around the restaurant located just off the waiting area. The news that Provincial Airlines will stop flying to this airport ends its only year-round service. The airline says it's losing money. Fewer than 150 passengers flew on the twice-weekly service so far this year. However, the Stephenville Town Council says that isn't the only problem. Tom Rose says it's also cheaper to fly into Deer Lake.
It was a recipe for disaster, and we met with them, told them about it, asked them to work with us, but they didn't listen and they ignored us. And unfortunately, they made a decision to pull out.
The town has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars this year to keep the airport operating. Rose says he just can't see a day when the airport is no longer needed.
This airport is so critical to Canada's military, to NATO military, to the world's airlines. We're a NICAO-class alternate emergency airport. Our hospital is there to back it up. Our runways are there to back it up. If this airport closed, the loss would be multi-millions of dollars to this province.
So what's the board of the Stephenville Airport Corporation saying? Not much at the moment. When contacted, they said they didn't want to do any on-camera interviews and they didn't want to make any knee-jerk reactions to the news, which is, of course, disappointing and devastating to the airport here. So as it stands right now, we'll be counting down to that date. January 16th, that's the last date that Provincial will be flying out of this facility. Troy Turner, CBC News, Stephenville.
Good to see our reporter Troy on the West Coast. Now, back in St. John's today, first responders rolled up their sleeves to give back by giving blood. The annual Sirens for Life campaign includes police, paramedics, first responders, as well as staff from Her Majesty's Penitentiary and Eastern Health. The RCMP says officers see how critical it is to have a fulsome supply of blood. In fact, just one person who's seriously injured in a car crash could need as many as 50 blood donations to help save their life.
It's absolutely critical that we get out here and donate blood to support the integrity of our blood supply service in Canada. As first responders, we attend a lot of scenes and a lot of instances where we see firsthand the critical importance of having a fulsome blood supply. So donating today with the rest of the uniformed services community is absolutely critical. It's a great thing to do.
Well, it's certainly much nicer day in the province than yesterday. That cruise ship that you can see out there is on its way out. We're going to tell you more about that ship as well as the weather just ahead.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I was just talking about, just showed you the cruise ship that was going through the Narrows, but a pretty impressive vessel this morning.
Yeah, try parking this baby or parallel parking this thing. It's the Sapphire Princess from Princess Cruises.
At the time it came into service back in 2004, it was one of the largest cruise ships in the world.
Able to carry 2,670 passengers. And of course, they got here on a beautiful sunny day, so they're all thanking you.
Yes, an absolutely gorgeous day out there. You can see those photos there.
We got to get you on one of those ships.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
You got to promise to come back, though.
I've actually never been on a cruise before.
Yeah, there goes our meteorologist. Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'll be back in a week. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so temperatures,
sunny.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Cool, but sunny.
Here in St. John's, it was a little bit cooler than what we saw everywhere else. So take a look at those temperatures. 14 degrees was the daytime high, but look up through Nain, 22 degrees. You should be sitting around 9 degrees as your daytime high, and then Lab City, 23 degrees. But these temperatures are going to continue over the next couple of, or at least the next 24 hours anyway. Here's where we're sitting right now. Haven't really moved much anywhere, Nain down to 19 degrees, but still an absolutely gorgeous evening. And you can see some cloud cover starting to move in. Other than that, not a whole lot happening. A big ridge of high pressure is dominating the province, or at least the majority of the province. We do have a low pressure system starting to bring in some of that cloud cover for northern portions of the Big Land. But other than that, with some rain moving through, we are in for a clear evening and overnight tonight, and because of that, we are still going to see that risk of some patchy frost. Again, likely in lower lying areas through the interior, the south coast, including the Burin Peninsula. Everywhere else, those temperatures are going to stay a lot warmer than what we saw last night, so no risk of frost tonight. Other than that, around the Canada Bay area, we do have a wind warning in place, and we're looking at gusts, westerly gusts upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour. And as we head towards the morning hours, those winds will go below warning criteria. Everywhere else, relatively light winds for the most part. 5 degrees for Corner Brook. You can see those warmer temperatures. St. John's, around 10 degrees is your overnight low. St. Anthony, 11. Grand Falls winds are 6 degrees. But again, those lower lying areas could see some patchy frost as those temperatures dip. Overnight low for Nain, only 15 degrees. As I mentioned, you should be sitting at 9 degrees as your afternoon highs. So you're above that as the overnight lows. 17 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. And then some rain potentially for Lab City at 14 degrees. Those winds west-southwesterly gusting upwards of about 40 kilometers per hour tonight. Tomorrow, some showers will move through the Big Land. Most of the day looks gorgeous for the island, but here down to the south there, as Humberto makes a little bit of a closer approach to the island, at least the southern portions, we could see some cloud cover with this and then some showers. The timing on those showers isn't well agreed upon. We could see it either late evening or at least late afternoon, early evening, or not until after the into the overnight hours. But otherwise, we will start to see those showers move towards the west coast in the overnight hours. So here's a look at those temperatures, pretty similar to what we're seeing today. 18 degrees in St. John's, 20 for Clarenville. Bonavista should reach a high near 22 degrees. I do have that chance of showers in there. The timing on that, again, still not well agreed upon. We'll definitely touch on that tomorrow. 21 degrees for Grand Falls, Windsor. Plenty of sunshine right across the board. Corner Brook should reach a high near 22 degrees. And then we've got those warm temperatures yet again. Mary's Harbor, 25 degrees tomorrow, with again that chance of showers moving in through the day across the Big Land. 15 degrees for Lab City, so a little bit cooler than today, but looks like an absolutely gorgeous afternoon for the most part. So let's look at your forecast. I'll have looking a little bit ahead coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, let's get back to our top story, the controversy that has rocked the federal election campaign, specifically the Liberal campaign. Pictures and a video has surfaced of leader Justin Trudeau wearing brownface and blackface in the past. Yesterday evening, Time magazine published a photo from a 2001 British Columbia School yearbook where Trudeau was teaching. In the photo, Trudeau was dressed, he says, as Aladdin. Trudeau also admitted to wearing blackface as a student to sing the Harry Belafonte song Deo, and a photo of that was published in a Quebec yearbook. And today, Global News released a video that Liberals admit is Trudeau in the early 1990s, also wearing blackface. Senior parliamentary reporter Julie Van Dusen is following this story for us, and she joins us live, as you can see, from Ottawa. So Julie, what a day. What's been happening on this story?
Well, you and I know, having covered a lot of campaigns, never seen anything like this. The whole impact of these photos and this video is not only the talk of the country, but it's making news around the world. And it's had a devastating impact on the Trudeau Liberals. It's knocked their whole campaign off kilter. He spent most of the morning in damage control on the phone, talking to community leaders, candidates, members of his caucus, looking for forgiveness, trying to explain his actions, trying to keep the team together. Then he did a walkabout in Winnipeg and then finally came to answer reporters' questions. And so he said he was really embarrassed by these photos. That's why he's never spoken about them. He said they don't represent the man he has become, which is all about fighting for equality and against racism. Take a listen.
I didn't understand how hurtful this is to people who live with discrimination every single day. I have always acknowledged that I come from a place of privilege, but I now need to acknowledge that that comes with a massive blind spot.
So Julie, obviously opposition parties competing in this campaign. This gives them a lot to talk about. Let's start with the Conservatives. What are they saying?
Well, they're saying basically they're not in a mood to forgive, that's for sure. They talk about the fact that when Trudeau was asked last night, is there anything else, he didn't mention the video that's now out there by Global, which incidentally was given to them by the Conservatives. He said that we know that Andrew Scheer, of course, has had a lot of problems with his own candidates who have said tweets that have been embarrassing, racist, homophobic, but he has talked about forgiving them if people apologize and make amends, but he's not willing to cut Trudeau any slack. Take a listen.
He's long lost the moral authority to govern, and I think after his inability to tell the truth last night, he's continuing to show Canadians that he's not fit to govern this country.
Now, Julie, Jagmeet Singh, the first leader to comment today. What about the NDP leader's view on this?
Well, he comes at it from a different perspective, of course, because he is the only non-white leader and he has lived experiences. He talks about his own experiences with racism. He actually broke down last night talking about it. He was asked if he thought Trudeau was a racist. He said that's really up to Canadians to decide. But it's interesting. He said he'd actually find it tough to shake his hand. Take a listen.
How do you look someone in the eye that's mocked the lived reality that I've lived, but more importantly, that so many Canadians have lived? I think he's got a lot to answer for.
So Anthony Trudeau was also asked, are you going to step down? He said no, he's going to continue campaigning, looking for forgiveness. He was asked, are there more photos? He couldn't really answer. So I guess he can only hope, if there are any more, they don't surface before October 21st.
All right, quite the development in the election. Julie, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's our senior reporter, Julie Van Duzen, in our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa.
Well, if you look off to the side when you're driving down the Trans-Labrador Highway this week, you will be seeing a lot of tents like this. That's because the Innu are gathering here at Gull Island. They do it once a year, and it's a celebration of their culture. I'll have more on that coming up on Here Now.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, last night you met Andrew from Makovic, and I told you about his love of Nunavut. And here we are. Iqaluit is just behind us, and I want to introduce you to Frank, who was born in the Northern Peninsula, grew up in Corner Brook, but now lives here. I know it's a long story, but how did you end up living here instead of Corner Brook?
Mostly because of the work. There's no work, so I left Corner Brook and moved to Ottawa, and there was not much work there after finishing school, so I moved to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Other side?
The world, yeah. And I always wanted to see Asia. And moved back to Corner Brook after 5 years, and there's still no work. So my wife decided, hey, let's move north.
All
so
right.
I saw a job and I applied for it.
Right. And so when she said north, she didn't mean St. Anthony.
No.
So here we are.
No.
You take fantastic pictures of this place.
Thank
Tell
you.
me about that. Where does the photography come from?
Well, I got into photography when I moved to Asia because I wanted to capture, document my journey. You know, I just fell in love with it.
What are you looking for? Because your pictures cover a whole variety. It can be aircraft, it can be little flowers, it can be landscapes, northern lights. What are you looking for?
Well, the purpose of my Twitter account and my Instagram account is to show the world the beauty of the Arctic and why we should protect it. And hopefully more politicians will see my photos and show how beautiful it is up here. And also I take photos of not so beautiful things, and that's also for historical purposes. I actually photograph as well in extreme winters. Minus 50 wind chills, minus 60 wind chills. And I find that's the best time to photograph.
Really?
Because, yeah, because nobody does it. So I'm capturing something that nobody else does.
You're capturing the market on minus 50-degree photos.
Yeah.
Do you ever have these moments, okay, you've been waiting for a long time, you're being very patient, either it's Northern Lights, you got some fantastic shots of the Northern Lights, and everybody tries to get those shots, but what's that moment like where you go, I got it?
It could take weeks, maybe months to get a certain shot. Even my aviation photography, there could be, you know, people say, how do you photograph the same plane all the time? But, you know, I'm trying to get that one shot all the time, and it takes multiple tries and, you know, settings on my camera. And even at the Northern Lights, you're working with numb fingers, so you're trying to change the settings and you're there trying to warm up, and it's very rewarding after you when I get back to the house and see that I got the shot. In the wintertime, I never know I got the shot until I go back to my house.
Right.
It's like almost film days.
So is the North gotten in, like, sort of into your blood now? Is this home?
This is my home. This is my children's home.
You get back to Newfoundland at all?
Been back there recently. I love it there, but this is my home now. It's free. There's something about the land when you're out on the land, the smells. It's addictive. In the spring of the year when things are starting to melt, when you walk out on the land, it just hits you with the smells.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you very
all
much.
the best.
Thank you. Okay.
Now, when I met Frank in July, he had just come back home from Newfoundland, sadly, because his father had just passed away. And Frank told me that he'd like to dedicate his photography and the item tonight on Here and Now to his dad, Frank Reardon Sr., fishing for char there. Well, in the wake of comments about Innu people that caused a provincial cabinet minister to step down, cultural sensitivity training has become a priority for the provincial government. But in Labrador, Innu culture is on full display this week, and Jacob Barker has more from the annual Sheshashi Innu gathering at Gull Island.
Just off the Trans-Labrador Highway, it's hard not to notice a cluster of canvas tents. Right in the middle of it, a volleyball game. Angel Rich is up front, calling the shots in Innu Moon.
It's my very first language, and I speak it fluently.
Language and culture is important to Rich.
I feel really good about it, and I feel well connected into my culture.
She loves the gathering, wishes it would go for 2 weeks instead of just one. She fears with the new generation, language could be getting lost.
Starting to, yeah. Because I see a lot of youth that speak English and do like English stuff.
She's inviting other cultures to learn about their way of life.
It's really nice for like the other races to like learn about Innu culture.
While the gathering is meant for the people of Sheshatshiu to come together on the land, it's open for anybody who wants to attend. Inside the tents, there's a lot to be learned. Anne-Marie Andrew is preparing a goose to be cooked.
My whole family.
Along with living on the land, eating from the land is also an important part of the gathering, though one thing is missing because of the hunting ban.
There's no caribou meat. We don't have a caribou meat. If we had a caribou meat, it would be really nice, you know.
She remembers traveling this area when she was a child with her parents. She wants that to continue on.
We don't want to lose our culture, even though our kids, you know. We still want to teach them in a special way to know their culture.
Just a couple of tents over, Cynthia Jack's family will be packing in, her children and grandson, even Rocky, all together in one tent.
I have to teach my kids to do this for when they're older.
Making a traditional floor.
At nights, make it warm.
A chance to be together, away from the gadgets and phones.
And it must be nice to have the whole family together, hey?
Yeah, and they're having fun. The kids are having fun.
Just across the way, Tanesh Nuna and her husband Randy Jarvis have a huge setup.
It's emotional, but I'm happy too as well and grateful.
Nuna's preparing a recipe her mother taught her, yeast bread. For her, this year's gathering is a hard one.
I'm sure Mom and Dad would have loved while I'm here with our all families together.
She lost both her parents this year within about 4 months of one another. They loved the gathering.
My dad would have been in the gazebo with the kids, doing marshmallows with them. You know,
telling stories.
Yeah, telling stories, and they would do doing the partridge.
Yeah.
Teaching
Mom
them.
would show them how to pluck the partridge or clean a rabbit and prepare it for cooking, stuff like that, right?
Jarvis is from Newfoundland originally. He married into Innu culture and has embraced it for the last 29 years.
He learned a lot from my dad.
Yeah.
About our lifestyle, and I'm really grateful that he learned.
For Nuna, the gathering spot is filled with memory of her parents. For her, they are everywhere.
I see them, I feel them, even when I'm outside here, and when I close this door, this is a tent door, and I feel that they're in here.
Surrounded by her family and friends, Nuna finds strength in the gathering and her community. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Gull Island.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, let's go right back to Carolyn Stokes as she's gauging reaction today to the Trudeau controversy that's happened. Earlier, Carolyn was at the NDP headquarters with Jack Harris in St. John's East, still in that riding, but now she's with Liberal candidate Nick Whalen at his campaign office. Carolyn.
Thanks so much, Anthony. Yes, I'm here at the campaign office. Lots of volunteers working the phones there behind me, and Nick Whalen joins me now. So this has been quite the past 24 hours for your campaign.
It's been a surreal experience, Carolyn.
Yeah. So this morning you tweeted that you were trying to explain the situation to your children. You criticized Trudeau as what he did as being disrespectful and oppressive, and you tweeted that. Can you tell us more about how you described this situation to your kids?
It was, difficult. My wife and I talked about discussing with them in the morning because, of course, family of politicians worry about their children being subject to, the political discourse or coming into the private life. So we'd mentioned what had happened, and, we were, I guess, maybe surprised and enlightened ourselves when our children immediately recognized themselves that this type of blackface is now considered totally disrespectful and oppressive, and of course has always been so. And so they were surprised to learn that when we were kids going to Halloween in the 70s and early 80s, it wasn't unheard of.
Mm-hmm. How did they react? What did they say to you?
Well, I was just worried that they might have comments from their friends, and they were like, our friends aren't going to make fun of us. But I said, well, what about if they make fun of Justin? And they were like, yeah, well, they probably will. Right. So, I think they're very mature about it, maybe more mature than we are. We have a lot to learn, and we always have a lot to learn about racism. It's something that our society is struggling with, and we need to come to grips with, especially, say, my generation and older.
Mm-hmm. It's one thing to describe the situation to children, but another thing to describe it to the voters out there. You were out and about today speaking with voters. What was the reaction out there?
Well, there wasn't a huge reaction about it to me personally. I've seen online and I saw some of the news coverage in CBC earlier. People are talking about it. There's a lot of varied opinions. But I think we need to recognize that politicians need to be held to a higher standard, and that when we speak or we're seen to do things, it may normalize that behavior, and it's certainly not normal. And we saw how contrite the Prime Minister is and was last night, and I think he explained himself from my perspective quite well, and completely uncaveated apology is exactly what was required in this case.
Now, the NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, said today that he feels that Justin Trudeau's public persona is different than what it is in private, I guess you would say. It's not a reflection of who he really is. What do you make of what he had to say?
Well, I only met Justin in 2013, and I have to say that last night I was utterly shocked to learn of what happened in 2001, and then I guess what must have been in the late 80s when he was in high school. So the Justin that I saw apologizing last night and today and answering the questions to the media is the Justin Trudeau that I know. And all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians know how good a friend he is to this province, and we know that he's going to try to do better to make sure that we address these issues of institutional and systemic racism in our society.
In 2015, the Liberals swept the election in this province. A lot of people voting against Harper, but a lot of people saying that Justin Trudeau had pretty long coattails, and that helped a lot of the candidates. What about this time around? Is Justin Trudeau becoming a liability?
I think it's fair to say that in 2015, everyone was surprised with the outcome here in St. John's East. All the stars, one would have to say, needed to align for me, and they did. But we worked exceptionally hard, and I've worked exceptionally hard over the last 4 years, completely devoted to working for the people of this riding. And on October 21st, there's going to be a lot of decisions on people's minds about the leader, about the party, and about the local candidate. And I think that I've demonstrated that I'm a strong voice for them in Ottawa.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick Whalen.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
That's Liberal incumbent Nick Whalen live at his headquarters. I'm going to throw it back to Anthony now in the studio. Anthony.
All right, thanks. That's Carolyn Stokes. Now, still with this story connected to a provincial Liberal, Hassan Hai sought the Liberal nomination in Mount Pearl Southlands this spring. He was born in Pakistan, grew up in Ottawa, but he now calls Newfoundland home. And he took to Facebook this morning to weigh in on the Liberal Party's latest controversy, saying in part, what Trudeau did was offensive and disgusting. As an adult and a teacher, he should have known better. And what Trimper did was horrible and racist as well. Forgiveness is possible if you do the work. If you want us to, quote, get over it, you've got a lot of work to do before that happens. All right, just before the weather, we've got some video of a very proud pop to share with you. 84-year-old Don Windsor of Happy Adventure, beautiful Happy Adventure, is absolutely thrilled. He has survived 3 open heart surgeries, cancer, as well as diabetes, all to see his grandson, Matthew Phillips, become a prospect for the Calgary Flames.
He wasn't picked for the under 16, the under 17, the juniors, and then finally he hit the juniors, and he didn't make the team. But all those setbacks didn't matter to him. And I predicted this way back when he was a child. I wrote a sports column for 25 years. So I always said to the boys upstairs, there's your future flame.
And there he is. That's Matthew Phillips. He got a standing ovation when he took the ice earlier this week in Victoria.
Here goes.
I thought our guys gave a real good accounting for themselves.
Fantastic.
I thought everybody contributed.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Proud grandpa.
Absolutely.
And a proud young man with the skates on professional hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, shall we look at the weather now?
Yeah, we'll go. We'll just look at tomorrow's forecast one more time quickly. We do have the potential for, well, we'll likely see, for the southern Avalon for sure, we'll see about 3 to 5 meter seas, and we can thank the remnants of Hurricane Humberto for that. Temperatures, though, going to be quite beautiful across the board, back into or sitting in the 20-degree range, a little cooler along the coast, but do still have those showers in play, as I mentioned, for eastern Newfoundland. We'll likely see, though, that cloud cover move in the afternoon. The timing, though, still a little bit up in the air, likely late evening or overnight for those showers. Won't really amount to much as of now, looking like about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain for that. And then up through Labrador, another gorgeous day for most of you, except the chance of some showers. But again, those temperatures are going to stick around. Lab City a little cooler at 15 degrees than what you're seeing today, but with those north-northwesterlies, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. So I just wanted to show you, this is a different model, and just to show you the difference in that rain. So as of now, looking at those showers moving in overnight, but then again, some more showers moving through the rest of the island overnight and into Saturday morning. As that system continues to track a little bit further east into Saturday, we'll likely continue to see that chance of showers, but then we should see some clearing again into the afternoon. And that's the story up through Labrador as well, as more cloud cover will move in late day with that potential for some showers as well into Sunday afternoon. So here's a look at the forecast for Saturday. Temperatures are going to dip, and we've been seeing that trend for the past couple of days. 10 degrees for St. John's. Again, that chance of showers. Likely won't see that clearing until the overnight hours. Otherwise, clearing from west to east. And 16 degrees for Port aux Basques, 12 for Grand Falls, Windsor. So quite a difference from what we're seeing this past couple of days. But the good news is those temperatures will recover slightly as we head into Sunday. Sunshine returns for Saturday for Happy Valley Goose Bay, 16 degrees. Nain, your drop in temperatures, about 10 degrees through the day. And then Lab City sitting at 11. So here's a look at the next 5 days for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. There's that drop I just mentioned, 10 degrees, but recovering into Sunday, certainly into Monday, we're back into some of that warmer air. And then Tuesday will be the best chance of showers into next week at 19 degrees. For central Newfoundland, 12 degrees on Saturday, but then again, jumping right back up with those temperatures, your overnight lows in the teens with sunshine. Again, that best chance of showers will be on Tuesday. A similar forecast for western Newfoundland, give or take a couple of degrees. More cloud cover expected on Monday. And then up through Labrador, you're looking at 20 degrees by Sunday, 23 on Monday with some of that humidity returning, and then Tuesday sitting around 17 degrees. Now, temperatures will be sitting in the teens for western Labrador, and it looks like rain both Sunday and Monday, and then we'll see the sun peek out again on Tuesday. So let's look at your forecast. I'll have your weather photo coming up.
Well, you just heard Ashley mention that nasty Humberto. The hurricane lashed Bermuda's coast last night, knocking out power to more than 27,000 homes and businesses. Residents were warned to stay off roads as the wind and rain hammered the British territory. The fierce storm overturned a sea container, and choppy seas threatened numerous boats. Now, Umberto is beginning to weaken, but dangerous surf and large swells are set to continue for another day or two. So the U.S. National Hurricane Center warns Bermuda could see more coastal flooding. Well, a coalition of leading health organizations, including the Canadian Medical Association, is demanding new national restrictions on vaping products, and they want them fast.
In short, youth vaping has become a public health crisis, and we need action now.
The group wants Ottawa to treat vaping like smoking, to limit marketing, restrict flavors, and regulate nicotine levels. The 8 health organizations are asking all federal political parties to commit to implementing restrictions within 60 days of forming the federal government. The appeal comes one day after the first reported vaping-related illness in Canada. Today, U.S. health officials said the number of confirmed and probable cases in the U.S. has jumped to 530. That's from 380 just last week, with 7 confirmed deaths, all of them linked to vaping.
I have a feeling you can guess where this is too. There's a couple of hints in the background there. I'll let you...
I see one.
I'll let you take a guess, and I'll tell you who took this photo when we come back.
Winding down here and now, for you animal lovers, a pint-sized panda is drawing crowds of visitors in southwest China, and it's not just because she's so cute. This baby bear was born with gray patches instead of black ones. 3-month-old Ji Xiao was seemingly unfazed by all the attention, snoozing away, as you can tell, with all the photographers. Little black and white buddy, as admirers clamored for pictures. Experts say so-called gray panda's fur usually turns black after 6 months, which makes the opportunity to see one all the more rare. They look cute, eh?
Adorable.
Yep. Cuddly little creatures.
Well, a
All right.
gorgeous weather photo. I
Yep.
think we all know where this was taken.
Yeah. Is that a trailer park? Oh no, that's a Fogo Inn there,
Funny,
right?
yes, very funny. That's actually the view from Joe Bat's arm, and yes,
what
a lovely photo.
Shot.
Yeah, Vince Penton took that photo. Thank you so much for sending that in. And if you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
All right, Joe Bat's arm.
Joe Bat's arm, yeah.
Gorgeous angle from there. Tomorrow's Friday.
It is.
All right, have a great night. We'll see you
Good
then.
night.